Adelita Grijalva is a native Tucsonan, educated through the TUSD schools and the University of Arizona. She was elected in 2020 to the Pima County Board of Supervisors for District 5. She's the first Latina elected to that position and is serving as vice chair. I believe on her agenda today is that a strategic plan that she and her team have been working on since January 2021. She worked with 50 community leaders, including labor, housing, environment, education, community organizing, and business groups to formulate the plan. And I believe she'll talk about that strategic plan today. So Adelita, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much, Larry, and thank you all for having me. It's an honor and a privilege to see so many familiar faces, some of whom were part of our advisory board for the strategic plan. So it's nice to see you all. So I am currently serving as chair, as president for the TUSD board, and also vice chair for the Pima County Board of Supervisors. And so I'm going to focus more on the Board of Supervisors, but I'm happy to answer questions about what's going on in TUSD. It's been interesting how these two roles have sort of dovetailed with each other, and especially in trying to recover from this pandemic and get back to whatever our new normal is going to look like. That information, the information that I'm getting on the Pima County Health Department side has been really critical to being able to provide support on the TUSD side and vice versa. So we did start, as Larry mentioned, we started a strategic planning of it when we really just got into office. I remember right after I was elected, I had a conversation with our county administrator, Chuck Huckleberry, and said, so what is it that we, like, does our office cover, certain constituent calls, or there's certain things that, our staff needs to be responsible for and go through a training process for. And basically my answer was, whatever you want it to be. So that to me seemed crazy. Like I wanted us to have a plan. I wanted us to have some sort of blueprint as to what we were going to be doing. And so I'm going to get into some details there, but I did want to give you all an update on the COVID-19 since this is the most recent of February 24. I know that we've had some updates as to CDC guideline, but basically where we are is our community is still in high transmission. And so regardless of what the CDC guidance has been, Pima County is still very squarely in the high transmission, in the red. And so we need to get into the yellow and green in order to start changing some of our behaviors, in my opinion. So our case rate, the last 7 days from February 24th on, we've had about 238 cases per 100,000 people. And that's really going in a really great direction, because there was a time there that, we had, 500 and 600 per 100,000. So 238 cases per 100,000 people. We're still in high transmission, but that's definitely trending in the right direction. Our positivity percentage is also dropping, which is great. Just 2 weeks ago, we were at 27%. Now we're at 13%. And so that means that the people that are testing for COVID are less likely to have COVID, which is really good news. Our new hospital admissions, 171, and the percent of our fully vaccinated population with the booster is 42%. And so what we're seeing is that those of us that are older, because we had access to the vaccine earlier and also access to the booster earlier, tend to be more fully vaccinated and boosted. But the boosting numbers are what we really are going to try to push forward to. And so if you want any information ever as to where we are, any pop-ups, I've become quite the referral source as to how to get people to the right place if they want a booster or to get vaccinated or to get tested. All of the information is there at pima.gov/COVID-19, where you can just Google Pima County COVID, Pima County vaccines, and it'll be right there. And so going into the details of the strategic plan, we did start right after we were elected in January 21, and I wanted to start the first term in office with a plan and to have a really clear goals and metrics for success. Like, how do we know that we're doing what we were elected to do? And so we reached out to over 50 community leaders with experience in environmental advocacy, labor, education, business, social and racial justice. After several meetings, we formulated a mission and a vision for priorities for District 5. And in September of 2021, we unveiled the District 5 strategic plan. And so the pillars for that plan were this: housing people can afford, education, environment and climate change, healthy and safe communities. And that is our vision and mission. And so the vision is we are District 5, a comunidad that strives to provide enduring opportunities to lead diverse, safe, productive lives through equitable access to education, housing, and healthy environment. And our mission is we will reach a shared vision of healthy, thriving community by honoring and preserving our history and environment and maintaining a vision of hope for future generations. We will collaborate with neighborhoods and essential partners to create systemic change and advance shared policy goals. Somos District 5. And so, all of this information is on our website. So I encourage you to do it in here. Some of you can pick out your picture as where you were, but we had a pretty impressive group of people that just, gave up their time and helped us formulate what our goals were. So every one of those pillars has goals and metrics and dates. And what was really interesting is that when we were trying to talk about what those goals should be, what ended up happening is everyone wanted us to do it right now. Like all of it needed to be done yesterday. And so we have a really aggressive plan and we're moving towards that. And we just provided our first quarterly update, and that's also online. And all of these we're writing them out. And so it's a document that you can use, but also you can listen to the recaps as well. We have those all recorded. And so, and Elvira was kind enough to put the link in the chat there. And so just to give you a little idea of what we're doing in our first pillar, which is education, what we've accomplished is we've supported the implementation of the Pima Early Education Program. The acronym is PEEPS. And so we dedicated funding to that. And this one is one of the ones that I'm the most proud of, because when I started on the TUSD governing board, I was looking for options once my daughter was old enough to go into, and just to give you an idea, she's 15. So it was a little bit ago, 13 years ago, that I was looking for preschool opportunities for her. And we had one preschool program in TUSD that I could pay tuition to go. So we had some opportunities for children with special needs. We had some for children that were low income and had some other challenges. But if, you were, kind of right in the middle, didn't have a lot, didn't have a little, and there wasn't really any place for us to pay tuition for our child to go into preschool. So now that's increased 5,000%, which I'm so excited about. We have a community preschool at nearly every elementary school. We have 2 centers. We have infants in those centers. And so to be able to have worked on that on the TUSD side, and then one of the first votes is to dedicate $10 million to early childhood education on the Pima County Board of Supervisors side was really just a wonderful moment. A list of community resources is available on our website, and a pamphlet has been created with resources and shared at over 20 community events. We have voter registration day. We worked with the nonprofits to register over 100 new voters in District 5, reallocation of Arizona Bowl funding to Nawiolin Wellness Program. And so those are just some things that we've done. Updates has led the first D5 inaugural art contest. We're inviting ages 5 to 11 to submit art as to why they love District 5. And we had 122 students participate, which was great. District 5 created the Explore D5 map and coloring book to share with schools and libraries, encouraging our community to get outdoors and learn about the Sonoran Desert Conservation Plan. So if any of you are interested, that was really this random idea I had of if we really want people to get out and appreciate what we have, let's give them a highlight as to where those locations are. And so I'm still doing a lot of love reading and other activities, but those are some of the pictures. And then on the environment and climate resiliency pillar, accomplishments are introduced and passed a resolution increasing recommended monitoring requirements for Becton Dickinson and Company's air quality permit. Emissions from similar facility owned by the same company in Georgia caused a cancer cluster, a 5-mile radius cancer cluster around that facility. Partnered with Mayor Romero to host a press conference with American Lung Association advocating for federal funds to provide infrastructure for electric school buses and to reduce air pollution for our most vulnerable communities. Updates: our office will provide monthly outdoor opportunities to empower people to get outside and explore District 5. In January, we partnered with Fuga to host a community bike ride and promote accessibility. And then here is the map that we provided with historical and cultural site sorts from community and neighborhood associations. And that's also available online. And I also have paper copies. If you'd like one, just send me your address and I will send one right over to you. So for healthy and safe communities is one of the other big pillars. We demonstrated advocacy by hosting a donation drive to support local organizations serving vulnerable communities. For example, collecting menstrual products for period poverty awareness and socks and undies for Casa Alita's Welcome Center. Advocated for the passage of a county-wide $15 minimum wage. On November 16, 2020, I proposed discussion and action to direct Pima County staff to create a plan to raise the minimum wage. The item failed, unfortunately, 3-2, but we will continue to work on that. The Board of Supervisors extended parental leave to 12 weeks of full pay in 2022. They were at 6 weeks of 77%, and then they moved to 6 weeks of full. And then the next week, we encouraged administration to put forward 12 weeks, and that was great. Initiated collaboration with the Honotam and Pascua Yaqui tribes to develop a land acknowledgement that is read at every Board of Supervisors meeting. This meeting tomorrow will be the second time that it's read. Hosted a gun safety town hall with youth from Sunnyside Unified and Tucson Unified School Districts. We worked with the mayor to get that going, and the information about the concern that our administration had, the school administration with the young people that had access to guns, was a real concern. And so I'm glad that we were able to start the conversation there. We looked into the issue of gun shows and sales in Pima County property and requested an updated opinion on the matter from the Pima County attorney. We received an opinion that stated that the board could not vote to directly ban sale of firearms for county properties. So in January of 2022, we held a meeting with the Southwest Fair Commission and the chair of the Crossroads of the West gun shows, and agreed to implement increased safety measures that could reduce the number of guns getting into the hands of our children. Some of those things include having gun locks distributed there at the gun shows, having a table of classes on gun safety with experts from the county and qualified volunteers. And another thing that the chair of the Crossroads of the West agreed to do is to have instructions on, for those of us that, maybe inherit a gun or something and are not professional vendors, like what is it that they should be doing? Because there wasn't any established protocol. And so now there is protocol. So while we'd like to be able to not have any of those sales on our properties, I think that, both the commission, Southwest Fair Commission and the chair of the Crossroads of the West were very willing to implement those. And so at the next gun show coming up, we will have a table there with information about gun safety, mental health, and resources there as well. So housing people can afford. We are advocating for the funding Pima County budgets to buy and build housing that people can afford. Pima County created an affordable housing task force, and District 5 is monitoring the meetings and providing support. We have made the county administration very aware of the urgency of the issue and are closely monitoring the Biden administration's measures to track their housing components so Tucson can take full advantage of what they have to offer. And in my role as chairing on the TUSD board, we're looking at no longer needed TUSD parcels for potential housing and projects that people can afford as well. So this is another example how those two roles are working together. And then keeping up with District 5, we have a website, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and even TikTok. TikTok is very entertaining for those of you who haven't explored it. Try it out, it's super fun. But we have a newsletter, policy updates and recaps, and upcoming events and volunteer opportunities that are there. I make sure after every Board of Supervisors meeting to film a summary. And it is anywhere from 3 to 15 minutes, depending on the issues of the day as to what happened at the Board of Supervisors meeting. So I hope that that's been helpful in encouraging people to get more involved. One of the things that I think is real interesting is that, for our TUSD boards, we have a call to the audience list. It's pretty intense. In some meetings, we have to extend the call. And here at the Board of Supervisors, there isn't that same level of community engagement. And so we're really looking to try to let people know how they can get involved so we can encourage more people to do that. Because I think that it's not that, we're not interested, perhaps it's just not been as welcoming an environment to participate in. So with that, I think I gave a little summary as to what we're doing, and very proud of the work that we're doing so far, and I'm happy to take some questions.
Right. Let's see here. All right. Well, thank you so much. That was a really impressive strategic plan. I mean, you really covered everything from soup to nuts. And as someone who's part of a group that advocates gun safety, thank you very much for all the work that you've done with the Fairgrounds Commission, which I know is a collection of NRA members, and especially the Crossroads Gun Show, to get some gun safety out there. Let me ask a question on behalf of Meg Predelt. She asks, who is providing the gun safety information that will be used at the gun shows?
So we're working with the Pima County Attorney's Office to provide some pamphlets, but also the gun locks. And so we're willing to work with anyone to get the pamphlets of information together as far as safety and mental health and wellness resources. And then if there's anyone that would like to host a training on gun safety or concerns, they're going to provide us the space for free. And so we can use one of their conference rooms right off of where, the sale is happening.
Well, that's fantastic. Let me open the floor to questions from our DGT members. You can either ask a question in the chat, and Mike Bryan will spot that and ask it for you. Although I recommend that you raise your hand. You just click on the reactions button down at the bottom and click on raise hand, as you see I've done, and you will have a chance to ask your question. And with that, we already have one. Lillian Fox, go right ahead. Ask your question.
Yeah, I know.
Hi, Lillian. How are you?
I haven't been a fan of you on the TSD board at all, but it sounds like you are doing a wonderful job. Yeah, she's laughing. It sounds like you're doing a wonderful job as supervisor, but that's a great fit for your experience and your interests. But what I was going to say, there was an interesting article that I think you would be interested in that was in the Arizona Daily Star about, I don't remember, it was Pennsylvania or where it was, but some organizations have started a program where they use blacksmiths to turn guns into garden implements. And as you know, it's against the law for the county or the Tucson to buy back guns. But maybe I'll send you that article. There may be some things in there that you could adopt in the county to reduce the guns, because a lot of people have guns they don't want. And so they're laying around the house where they're a danger to people.
Yep, I agree. Well, thank you. I appreciate that feedback. I believe I read the article, but I will look it up. They do actually have a blacksmith facility, it's run by a family business, like a local family business, and they usually only open it up during the fair. And so I think there's an opportunity literally on site to be able to do something.
Yeah, and people, they're blacksmiths who, shoe horses in Pima County. So there may be some additional blacksmiths, but that one sounds like a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
All right. We've got a question from Susie Anderson. Go right ahead, Susie.
Hi, Susie. How are you?
Adelita, I've got a couple of questions. First of all, with our legislature thinking it's a good idea to have guns on campus. And just recently, there was an occasion at the Hub where there was a shooting. The Hub is student apartments kind of on campus, and there were a couple of kids shot. I never hear much anything further about that. And I think that's sad. I mean, this should be something that's exploding on our front pages. What can we do as a community in Tucson to try and get the legislature to wake up to the issue of gun safety?
Yeah, I think that, thus far, we've had a lot of local control at our schools. And so, I do believe even when there was a conversation about this it was like 4 years ago, and it looked like it was going to pass, we were assured that we would still be able to, as school districts, individual school districts and buildings, be able to restrict access. It's a huge concern. It's something that is happening on our campuses now, even in our high school campuses, because young people have access to guns at their homes. And then it comes onto the campus in vehicles and backpacks. And so we've had a couple situations that were really concerning. And then a lot of the toy guns look like real guns. And so sometimes you don't know that it's a toy, and people respond assuming that it's a real gun. So I think that we have to reach out and really work really hard to keep the people that are strong advocates in office and help those that are going to be at least moderate, even like open to listening. I mean, if you're looking at some of these crazy bills that are coming through that restrict voters, restrict access, they're going straight down the party line. And so we need more balance there. And we need stronger advocates to do that. And we have some really great ones that are running for re-election that I hope are able to come back. And I think that we really need to ask ourselves, even those that are moderate or registered Democrats, if they're not really pushing for us, to let them know that that's an important thing. I mean, we elected them to serve there. We're all here to be of service. And if the people that are in office right now are not doing that job, then we need to remind them that they need to do it or elect other people. But,
Okay, Mike Bryan has a question from the chat, or possibly his own. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I actually have both, one from the chat and one of my own. Let's go with the chat first. Dr. Barbara Warren would like to know when the Board of Supervisors will be planning on implementing heat protection standards for workers, following the example of your esteemed Papa Raul.
Yeah, so we actually, there is a title. It's called the chief of heat or something. It's a director level position in some organizations, and we're looking at doing that. I know the city is doing that as well. We actually are talking about all of, as the weather's changing, it's going to become a huge concern. And so I have been speaking to interim director Jan Lesher to put an item on the agenda to discuss where that position might fit, because we do think it's critically important for us to be monitoring and ensuring the safety of our employees and those of us in our community. It gets incredibly hot there. I mean, some of the summers, as soon as the sun comes up, you can no longer work, and it's like blistering heat.
So is this on a future agenda yet, or?
Yeah, it's not. So we don't have it on this upcoming agenda. If it's not going to be on the next one, then we'll put it on. Our office will put it on to start the conversation.
All right. So the next thing is, I would like a lot more detail, please, about PEEPS. This is a very exciting program. I think it's great, since the state has dropped its pre-K program back in 2010, or at least stopped funding it. Very important for the young children to have a safe place to go when their children are at work, to have pre-K education. And this is a very interesting program. So I'd like to talk more about the funding, the implementation, how exactly it works. I understand it's a voucher program with a public-private aspect. Can you talk much more about that?
I'm happy to send you all the detail too, because we keep getting updates. So we're asking for updates on how it's going. So the Board of Supervisors dedicated, and it passed 3-2 dedicated $10 million to this program. And basically what it does is we utilize all of the other programs available at the state level, at the federal level. So we have funding in a lot of different pots. And then for those students who don't qualify for those, they could access this funding, the county funding. And so what it's looking like is that we're exhausting the other opportunities first and then utilizing this, which is great for the system. And so the system works very similarly to some of the other state funded options where we use our school district preschool programs, we use public and private and combinations of, and really trying to encourage people to get certified and open up their own, especially in areas where access is very limited. We also this also covers infants, which is, I think, is really important because that was something that wasn't really covered in a lot of the other options. And with this funding specifically, you have to be open for 8 hours, which I think was an issue for some of the other smaller private ones because their hours were so limited. It wasn't really accessible for working parents. And I think that has to be a critical piece, but that we would offer as part of this funding, we offer breakfast, lunch, and snacks. So we pay for all of that. And I think that's really important as well. As a mom who, my kids they're particular on some of the things they eat. I can say that in a nice way, as opposed to picky. But, we pack lunch and have to pack snacks. And for those families who it's a hardship as it is, to be able to access the free and reduced lunches at schools is wonderful. And so that's why I was really pushing for us to utilize the programs that already exist in our schools, because we have the facilities there. And all of us, including like Sunnyside, Amphi, we've had to repurpose some schools or some wings because of reduced population and enrollment. So this was like a real natural fit. And so I'm glad to see that even those districts who are not necessarily ready or at the capacity to sort of accept the funding are ready to do it now. The biggest issue, as I understand it, in implementing is hiring. The staff shortages make it incredibly difficult. And I think, if we don't pay people like professionals and value them in that way, we're not going to get the people that we need in our schools or in our programs. I mean, it's a minimum wage job with, you're influencing generations of children. I think that as a society, we need to really improve our pay for those that support working families.
So a couple follow-ups on that. I understand that it's funded for $10 million now, but that's not permanent funding. Is that right?
Correct. It was a 1-year funding. And so I'm assuming it's going to come up this year. We haven't expended all the funds, but I'm going to advocate that we leave the money at that amount because as I mentioned, there's going to be some other schools that maybe didn't have the capacity that now will. Yeah. Because it's an expensive process to go through. And especially if you're dependent on tuition in order to sustain the jobs in those programs or the facilities. Knowing that there's funding there is great.
Yeah. So will there be a permanent funding source in the near future?
I hope so. I hope it is. And one of the arguments from the 2 supervisors that voted against it was, this isn't really the function of the county, or it's really like, it's a state issue, but the state isn't.
Yeah, they're not doing it.
They're not even funding full kindergarten. Yeah. So, if they were to fund full kindergarten, then that might free up some funding for us to be able to continue to support these programs that we know are really important to our young people. And the data is just so clear on young people that have access to early childhood, how much more prepared they are to transition into a school environment. Yeah, and so, we're definitely not going to, I'm not going to be advocating to ever leave our, those families that are now depending on this funding in the lurch.
And so right now it's a means tested program up to 200% of poverty. Is that right?
Correct. And I also wanted that to scale down as well. So we could come up with a plan where working families who maybe didn't qualify because of income, but really don't have the extra, $600 a month in order to put their child in preschool. If we can have a sliding scale, that was something that I asked for this year. So hopefully that will be something that happens as well.
Well, that's exciting. 100% thumbs up from me. Barbara Warren does have a follow-up question regarding the heat standard. She's wondering if the county has written those standards yet? Because I know her organization of physicians would be happy to do that for you.
No, but if you want to reach out to us, please do, because I think that we're just in the preliminary stages of getting the administration to dedicate the staffing and funding. But yeah, I would be happy to work with you to come up with some standards. I know that there's established standards for the feds, but you always have to take those standards and then make them more local and meaningful on this end.
Barbara follows up. Raul has the written standards. Ask Dad. Thanks so much, Adelita. We'll get to some other questions now.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got a lot of hands up. Let's turn to Mag Prydell. Go ahead, Mag. Ask your question.
Okay, thank you. There seems to be a good amount of interest on the gun safety issues here, and that's kind of where I am most interested. So I was wondering if TUSD is actively advocating against the bill that's coming up this coming week to allow loaded weapons on school grounds.
Yes, through our lobbyists, we are.
Great.
We are. Our superintendent actually, he went up to the state legislature to advocate for the lifting of the AEL and caught COVID while he was there. And so he was also talking. He didn't advertise that. I said, you really should tell people.
Yes. Okay.
That is just, I wouldn't have gone in the middle of a, Omicron variant surge. I would.
Yeah, that's my problem too.
He did have face-to-face. Part of the problem is you have some people that are just so disconnected to the reality of what our communities are going through with this easy access to guns. And so we talked a little bit about it during the gun safety town hall that we co-hosted with the mayor. And it's just the beginning. And we talked about that several times during that town hall. Like, we really have to come up with a community-wide plan in order to protect our young people.
Very good. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, let's turn to Bob Delaney. Go ahead and ask your question.
Adelita, I'm curious to have you expand a little bit on the Becton Dickinson situation.
Oh, sure.
I'm concerned about the Democratic Party being kind of painted in a corner of being anti-job growth, and obviously, environmental protection is critical. But how do you balance the need for our young people and adult community to find employment and deepen our job market, particularly primary jobs, not pizza parlors, but, new jobs, new capital coming in from outside. So how do you think about that? And what are you looking for them to demonstrate to you?
Well, this specific organization, I actually met with them. They're going through a permit process right now. Part of the problem is that just the smallest amount of this chemical that is a byproduct of this sterilization process is really detrimental to our community, and instantly, it is so toxic. So, but it's 38 jobs Becton Dickinson is bringing, literally 38 of them. And it requires them to work with Pima Community College or the university in order to put together like a training program. And none of that legwork has happened. And so one of my concerns, and one of the things that when I asked them about it is, so how many jobs are you bringing to our community? And how many people are you bringing to start up the program? Because you don't have, according to you, don't have the qualified people. We don't have the qualified people here in Tucson in order to fill those positions. And so we got a lot of promises and not a lot of follow through. And I do think that there are ways to attract companies. I'm not anti-business or necessarily anti-growth. It's more about being sustainable and being smart about it and not destroying our natural environment in order to do it. So those were all pieces that really bothered me, the 38 people, the fact that they don't have a training program. And so what we're asking for is constant monitoring. The ethylene oxide if you look at every location where this company has popped up a site, there is a cancer cluster there, and they're from New Jersey. And so my thing is, I don't know how long your investment is here, but even the byproduct of the medical sterilization isn't staying local. everything is out. Everything is being shipped out from here. And so we're not even benefiting from it. So those are some pieces of it that I think are going to be important for us to look at. And there are some really great organizations. And I think that working with Sun Corridor, Pima County funds them in order to bring businesses, to be real clear on the kind of businesses that we'd like to see here in our community is important. But the other piece of it is that Becton Dickinson, where they're going to be located, is right near the Sunnyside plume where the TCE water, the poisoning of the water in that location is located. And so it's just like we continue to pile on all of these environmental disasters on this one community. And I think that it's just important for us to keep in mind that, we're not going to see a huge outpour from that community. It's an industrial area already, but people live there and are raising their children there. And so it's a few issues specifically regarding that one, because I've approved others. It's just this specific one. The more we dug into it, the more concerned we were. And it's a permitting process. The process has a lot of flaws in it. And so they can't even consider the prior history and impact of this company when they're making the decision whether they qualify for the permit or not. So we're requesting constant monitoring as opposed to periodic monitoring, and something that can be done. So if it's going to open up, we hope that we're able to put in some safeguards to protect our environment.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have a question from Molly McCassin. Go ahead, Molly.
Thanks so much, Larry. And Adelita, it's wonderful, the strategic plan. I congratulate you so much.
Well, thank you for being a part of it. Appreciate it.
Well, it was a really good experience, and it was impressive and reassuring to hear from so many good people in the community. And I want to especially, again, like Larry, thank you for your work on gun violence prevention. And while I admire the gun safety aspect, I'm wondering if we can't do more. Gun safety has been promoted now in Pima County for quite some time by different groups. So there are gun locks. Gun locks have been out there. The sheriff, our current sheriff, had a gun lock free giveaway gun locks program years ago, and I think all of that is good. The problem is that we're living in a pretty uncivil society right now in terms of our divisions, and guns are playing a big role. There's an enormous surge of gun buying. A lot more guns are being sold out of Pima County, and they guess somewhere between a third and half are being sold without background checks. That means they're private sellers. And that is actually the favorite venue of private sellers and people who do not want to sell with a background check. So what can we do to prevent the sale to prohibited buyers, to domestic abusers, to felons, to people who people who have mental health issues? Because there's not going to be any, we don't seem to be going anywhere on being able to have universal background checks at the fairgrounds.
Right. Nope. We're not there at all with universal background checks. I even asked the Crossroads of the West, why do you have to have not people that are not unlicensed sellers? Can you limit to licensed sellers, because they all have to go through background checks? So where we are is we actually have an item on the agenda to release the privilege of another request that Supervisor Scott and I asked for of our county attorney's office. And so if that's released, then we can have a conversation about that as well. So it sort of is, we continue to ask the questions and we want you to know that we're asking, but this specific information is privileged until we release it, if we release it tomorrow at tomorrow's meeting. So there's an item on the agenda literally right now about gun sales and gun shows in our community.
Just one quick follow-up, Larry. Adelita, the item tomorrow, for those of us who are really following this closely,
yeah.
Is it an opportunity to do things like have more sheriffs out at the gun show, have ATF presence? What exactly is the item about?
So because it's a privileged document, I can't really talk too much about it at all until it's released. And so we do have an executive session conversation. So right at the beginning of the meeting, we're going to talk about that. And so it is legal advice and direction regarding discussion on waiving attorney-client privilege to the memorandum dated January 27th regarding gun shows at Pima County Fairgrounds. So that is I'm literally reading from the agenda, and then we have an item to release it. So we discuss it in exec, and then we vote on it. And once we vote on it, then I will send it to you right away, so you can see what it involves. I know. I wish I could share more. I can't.
I understand.
Yep.
Attorney-client privilege.
Yep.
So let's turn to Andrea Kennedy. Andrea, you have your hand up. What's your question?
Hi, and thank
Hey,
you
Andrea.
for coming today. My question is similar in topic to Molly's. Unfortunately, the gun show brings in a lot of money. A lot of gun violence in this country is directed against women by their intimate partners. Yeah, we need to keep kids away from guns. Yeah. And every day, women are threatened and shot. Men also experience high amounts of gun violence. Do you have any ideas for what the Pima County can do? So when somebody comes, they want to sell guns or they have a gun show, to say, no, take it somewhere else. You are not displaying our values. Yeah, you bring in a lot of money. Take it somewhere else. You want to sell guns out of here? No, you can't. Go do it somewhere else.
Yeah.
How do we get there?
So, I think the problem is the fact that the chair of our board likes to say all the time, we are the weak arm of the state. And so until there's changes at the state level in regards to the law, we're sort of pinned in a corner. And so, we've asked, from day one, we've been asking for legal opinion and advice. So hopefully when this one comes out, it's sort of a summary of a lot of other requests. But, it's not just Pima County. I was hoping that we would have some sort of authority over Pima County facilities. But there are gun shows all over that are not on county property and have no, I walked through some of them and they have less safeguards than our county ones, our county facility ones. They're pretty open. And that one is popping up pretty often at the expo. I live on the south side, and so I see like their little signs everywhere. And I wish I could say that there's something else that we can do, but quite honestly, until we get some reprieve from the state, we really don't have the authority to do anything other than request, which we did request. But I just think it's so incredibly frustrating, because I thought, we can change the composition of the Southwest Fair Commission, or we can do all of these other things. And that won't make a real significant change.
Oh, I thought the board had the authority to refuse the show. I'm sorry.
No, we don't. Yeah, that's what I thought too. I thought the Southwest Fair Commission is the one that approves who's going to be at the fairgrounds. But that was just that one. That's just that one location. We don't have authority over the others at all. Yeah.
All right, we have a couple more questions. Let's turn to Susie Anderson. Go ahead, Susie.
Hi, Adelita. You live on the south side. How active are south side residents, especially the Hispanics, Tohono O'odham, and west side Yaqui communities? How active are they becoming in our elections? Can you?
I think that our turnout has been really positive. It's usually where I focus a lot of my energies as far as getting elected. I've been expanding over to Midtown and East, but I think that there's a lot of we all hear a lot of the same rhetoric about the security of our elections. Some people that I've spoken to were like, I don't want to register to vote because then you guys will call me. You'll call me all the time. And, then I'll get called for jury duty, which I'm not right now. There's all of these other issues on top of it. And quite honestly, it has to be something that is instilled as a priority. And so, in my family, voting has always been a privilege and a responsibility. You have to vote. And I think that's something that, we have to teach children from a young age. I do know that my children talk about voting a lot in school, which I think is positive, just like getting involved, and it has to come as they're younger growing up. But I do think that the outreach is important. I think communicating to people in their language is important and critical, and making voting relevant to them. I also think that the vote centers are going to be really helpful in making it easier for people who don't vote, didn't get the mail-in ballot, to walk up to any place. It's, as someone, and I know all of you have done this too, trying to find a person's polling center, their polling place, and they work downtown, but they live on the far east side, and that's where they have to go vote. And will they make it there before it closes? It's just a process, we're trying to make it easier and more accessible. So I do think that this is going to make a big difference in people just being able to walk up to whatever's nearby and be able to vote there. And it will also reduce the number of provisional ballots, which I think is really critical, and just a huge resource of not just time and energy. It's pretty big. Whose family is that?
Well, let's see. Kathy Raymond's White inadvertently showed her grandchildren, I guess.
It was. Sorry about that. I'm just playing around. I apologize.
It is a nice picture. I was like, oh, that's not my family. That's not my stuff. Hang on, let me look.
Got a question from Paul Wagaman, one of my colleagues from the University of Arizona. Go ahead, Paul.
Paul, real quick, I did want to address Molly's the comment about the deputy presence at the gun show. They are there. I mean, as soon as you walk in, they're there. When there's two of them stationed there when you check in. There's signs all over the place. They're there when you check in. I mean, they were setting up when we walked through. The gun show was starting the next day, and they were showing us where all of the deputies were going to be. So deputies are all over the entrance when you get to the area where you're going to park for the gun show. They also have their own security because they really want to limit gun sales out of people's, trunks and stuff. And so there were positions for 6 deputies at the gun show. I just wanted to make sure that that you knew that. And then there were 2 ATF people in full kind of riot gear that said ATF over their security, the bulletproof vest kind of thing. I just wanted you to know it was there was presence there. Sorry about that. I saw the comment and I just wanted to make sure that I addressed it. Paul, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. That's a good thing for people to know. I'm curious, since we are in a situation where the state of Arizona gets into our business a lot, particularly to protect the biases of the legislative branch of the state government about individual freedoms and the role that government should play in things. Basically a Republican bias. But my question is, how closely, and I assume the answer is broad, but people need to know about it. How closely do we work with our legislative delegation to try to stem this the application of this Republican bias on our autonomy as a local government?
Yeah, what's been really helpful, and when I'm talking to my friends who are also serving in the legislature and the Senate, when organizations reach out and say, this is the bill we're concerned about, and this is why, and this is a counter argument for why, this could be your argument as to why you don't vote for that, or please advocate against it, and just sort of list them. I think that, they're inundated with just information and a lot of homework, and most of our representatives have other jobs. This is their part-time thing. So if we can make it easier for them, that would be great, because I have heard the arguments, when we're pushing for, public education and access, when we have organizations like AEA and AEA Retired who say, hey, this is what our concern is. you hear those arguments in our representatives. But I think a constant communication and reaching out is important. We cannot rely on just our lobbyists or, you know, our administration to do it. We have to do it often and keep the line of communication going, because as we see how often these bills just get introduced or like pieces of it get shoved into something and people approve it without even realizing how it's been changed. Like, you know, it is a full-time job, and I know that it's difficult for us to sort of keep up with it, which is why, you know, we have organizations that are focused on just access to voting, some that are focused only on public education. But if we can tie some of these together and be better advocates and support our who we think are good advocates, they just need to have the information. But we do, our lobbyists, we work with our lobbyists in Tucson Unified and Pima County. And they meet, you know, they meet fairly regularly and keep us all updated. It's just, what do we do after that? And a lot of those chain emails, like, you know, let your legislator know, and you just put your information in and send it off. We'll get a lot of those, but I don't know how many people actually look at it, especially if it looks like a form letter.
Good point there. Thanks very much. Let me remind some of our board members that we have a meeting after this meeting, and that would include Sandy Binion, Steve Linder, and Jeannie Christie and Christina Early. And with that, we're out of time, Adelita. And I wondered if you could sum up how people can get a hold of you, how people can get involved in your activities, and how people can reach you.
Yeah, so my email is just adelita.grijalva@pima.gov. Those of you who know Keith, you can always reach out to Keith. He's very responsive, but any of our staff can help. So just that is a really quick way to communicate. We also have all of our information on our website, which is just adelitagrijalva.com. And then there are a lot of the strategic plan is there, how to email, how to sign up for our newsletters. So you know what we're doing. And really, we are here of service. And so if there is an event going on that you'd like us to be a part of, we're happy to be there, to table, to give out information, to, you know, speak at neighborhood association meetings. I mean, this staff is hardworking, and they're here in the morning, but then they all have neighborhood association meetings in the evening. So we just want to make sure that we're here to provide whatever support that we can. And so all of our links are in the chat as well. See, they're so much better at that than I am.
Well, Adelita, thank you so much for your time and your presentation about the strategic plan, your discussion of gun safety. We really are grateful that you came and spoke to our meeting, and wish you all the best. And with that, I'm going to call the meeting to a close. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming. You can catch DGT every Saturday at 3 p.m. on the radio now. You go to the John C. Scott Political Forum, and you will hear John interviewing various progressives here in town, and that's on radio station KVOI AM 1030 on your AM dial. And with that, we'll see you all at the next meeting. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Adelita.
Thank you all. It was so nice to see you. Stay safe. Thank you.